I think they should get Elon Musk out of there messing with any of our departments.
But we love to be, don't you want to be accountable to what's happening with the homeless and everyone that is out on the streets, the people that have mental illness?
We don't want a non-elected man appointed by the president to start making people go home, lose their jobs, and all of that.
How can they lose their We're going to have more money to hire than someone else.
Oh, no, he's tricking you. You're getting fooled.
I'm a Trump supporter, and I love what President Trump is doing. Yo amo a Presidente Trump. Es un presidente, el mejor presidente. Y la comunidad hispana and African American should know. What do you tell the American people?
Hi, how are you? Doge did not exist 2 years ago. 19-year-olds were not raiding the Treasury 2 years ago. People who have no idea with medical background have not been hauling in and creating kangaroo courts for scientists to dismiss them 2 years ago. That started happening now. Elon Musk is not a scientist. He is not an engineer. He is a billionaire con man with a lot of money. He does not have this kind of good background. And in fact, while there's some disruption over that, I sincerely ask you all to examine what expertise he has in approving medical devices, in biomedical engineering devices. And if you all think that he is an expert in that, I've got a bridge to nowhere to sell you. These are people's lives that are on the line, and we cannot laugh them away. Genuinely, please, I am asking you to please support this amendment for the people who have medical devices stuck in their body. Thank you, and I yield back.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're all having a great and wonderful day. And, well, what we have here is a bit more insanity from The View, because what do they not spew is other than just complete insanity. And I think that it needs to be talked about. So, without further ado, we're going to talk about Joy Behar, where she ends up saying something incredibly stupid, going after Elon Musk for his immigration status, etc., and then have immediately walk it back because she didn't want to be sued. Well, that's what happens when you get stupid people, right? You just get stupid idiots that say dumb things. And how many times have they done this to where they had to do a legal note in the past year? And yeah, it's just sad. So without further ado, my friends, let's just get this over with.
What was that?
Well, I think that Trump is happy right now with this situation because he only ran to stay out of jail.
Yeah.
That was mainly his. No, I think that's true. I don't think he ever wanted really the responsibility of the job. He's not really bright enough to handle the job. And Elon Musk kisses his butt and strokes his tiny ego or big ego, whatever it is. And he doesn't get to he can take a nap while the guy was not born in this country, who was born under apartheid in South Africa, so has that mentality going on. He was pro-apartheid, as I understand it.
He's a naturalized citizen.
Right?
Now.
He's a naturalized citizen.
Now he's a naturalized citizen.
Oh, really? How did he do that? Did he come over the border legally?
He had an H-1B visa, I believe.
He flew in.
Yeah, he allegedly overstayed that visa.
Yeah, but I think this is just perfectly wonderful for Trump. He can take a nap and let this foreign agent, an enemy of the United States, do his job.
Anybody else?
This is complete insanity, right? This is complete insanity. Like, he is not president. Now, for instance, if you were born in another country, yeah, you can't really be president, and there's certain things that you can't be. Doesn't mean you can't be a part of the said government. And another thing, too, as well, is that, like, she is literally mocking immigration, right? She's mocking that, like, oh, well, I guess foreigner that's just in here, just doing all these things. Like, what are we talking about? It's like, if we're talking about them being, like, essentially make him as another arm of, like, a staff or employee of the government, correct? This is where we would put him at. And mostly the time that you can be in an H-1B1 visa and be a staff of the government, but not be like potentially like a governor or a mayor, etc., of the states, right, of the country. Well, he's neither of these things. He's just like an employee of the said government. So he is answering to Trump and he is doing what Trump says while also doing monitoring and doing this other stuff. She is literally mocking immigration here, and it is quite obvious on how stupid this woman is, saying this foreigner. So now you're against people, against illegal immigrants now? Is that where you're getting at from? Because from what we're getting from here is like, you're saying this foreigner like some type of, like, in a very like negative and honestly hostile manner. So I really am questioning on what's going on here, Joy Behar. This is the reason why these people are idiots. And there is a bit of a silence here because obviously they kind of, don't really kind of like what she's saying here.
I don't like Elon. I wouldn't go as far as to necessarily call him an enemy of the United States yet. Let's give him a little bit of time. This is my gripe with Elon Musk. There is a world in which having him for free advise the U.S. government could be an asset. This is somebody who made incredible investments with EVs, with Teslas, with SpaceX. I've toured what they've done in NASA. He is a brilliant person when it comes to rocket science, engineering, not federal staffing. Like that, we're using him in the dumbest possible way, in the way that he is least qualified to be used. And it just doesn't really make sense to me.
Now, the problem that I have with this, problem that she's saying here is that, like, you can be a genius in a lot of things, right? You could be a genius in, mathematics. You could be a genius in science. You could be a genius in, setting up computers to run like AI programs, etc. But this does not mean that you can run a company, right? Because running a company and being able to do a specific set of jobs is completely different compared to, just doing your normal work, right? So essentially is that he is a genius when it comes down to a lot of those things that she's mentioned, but he's also a genius in the fact that he has how he runs a company. He fired 80% of Twitter staff because to make it run better, because people were not doing their jobs and they were not functioning correctly. Trump saw this as a good, strong success in terms of how he was running Twitter, and that is something that's why he's brought on. He was able to run these companies through successful of leadership and how he manages things. That's why. It's not just because he's a smart person, because if that was the case here, he wouldn't be CEO of Tesla and all these other media companies, because he wouldn't be a good leader. He wouldn't be a good person that would be able to run a company, because be able to do a specific subject or a thing is separate compared to be able to run a business. Like, trust me, like when you're being a businessman, you got to be a bit cutthroat. You got to be like, okay, you got to get rid of here. It's like you really have to be kind of a dick, because I don't like firing people, but sometimes you have to, and you have to manage things correctly for things to run correctly. So again, this is just insanity here, in my opinion. This is just stupid.
Honest take was, why didn't someone get Elon Musk a chair? He's just kind of hovering over the entire meeting, like dressed in all black. But then also, cabinet meetings are kind of pointless. No actual decision-making happens in them. It's kind of, especially in the Trump era, it's turned into basically everyone goes around one by one and flatters the president.
Yeah, and this is just stupidity, right? Because, again, I agree that maybe things have not happened too much in the cabinet so far, but that's just because it hasn't happened just due to the fact that we had a lot of, presidents that just didn't do much of anything. So it was just terrible in general. So again, we're going to go to here where Joy Behar is just completely has to do a legal note essentially and backtrack because, she's an idiot. And this is so what happened.
This is one of the reasons I love this show. Go ahead, Joy.
I was just going to say that now I'm getting some flack because I said that Musk was pro-apartheid. I don't really know for sure if he was. He grew up at that time when apartheid was in full bloom before the great Nelson Mandela fixed that. He was around at that time, but maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. He might have been a young guy, too.
Might have been.
So don't be suing me, okay, Elon? They're allowed to say any lie they want, but we have to be really strict. That's why this show's important.
Yeah.
No, Joy, because, again, you are doing things that are specifically liable, flat out lies. Just because somebody was in this certain era of time does not mean they were a part of apartheid. Just like the same thing as saying like, oh, Jews that when Jews were alive, they were all part of a concentration camp, which is just not true. Again, just because you were in a certain type of era does not mean you participated or did any of these things. In fact, he could have been part of the apartheid situation in itself, where he was a victim of it. So again, doing these baseless things are stupid, and she's just saying like, oh, don't sue me, and what have you. And again, this is something that The View does constantly, and they just contradict themselves. Take a look at this.
There was this turning point conference. Neo-Nazis were in the front of out there in front of the conference with anti-Semitic slurs, and the Nazi swastika, and a picture of a so-called Jewish person with exaggerated features, just like Goebbels did in during the Third Reich. It's the same thing.
I've got a legal note. The conservative group.
Sonny normally does this, but
I know.
Yes.
This is our knockoff lawyer.
Okay.
The conservative group Turning Point USA has condemned the group of neo-Nazis and said they have nothing to do with the organization.
Yeah, but where was DeSantis is what I want to know.
But you let them in. You let them in and you knew what they were.
Right.
So you are complicit. Make a quick clarification about the neo-Nazis at the Turning Point event. They were outside protesters. My point was more metaphorical, that you embraced them at your thing, I felt. So they were not in the building.
They felt
No, but you know what?
invited.
You know what? If the so-called Antifa, who are anti-fascist, that's what Antifa stands for, would go there and protest, then Antifa would get a bad reputation. That's why when I hear that Antifa is
right, but that's not. But let me just make sure that everybody, because misunderstanding what people say is very big.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure I know they were not in the building.
So on Monday, we talked about the fact that there were openly neo-Nazi demonstrators outside the Florida Student Action Summit of the Turning Point USA group. We want to make clear that these demonstrators were gathered outside the event and that they were not invited or endorsed by Turning Point USA. A Turning Point USA spokesman said the group, quote, 100% condemns those ideologies, and said Turning Point USA security tried to remove the neo-Nazis from the area but could not because they were on public property. Also, Turning Point USA wanted us to clarify that this was a Turning Point USA summit and not a Republican Party event. So we apologize for anything we said that may have been unclear on these points.
Welcome back. In Monday's conversation about Turning Point USA, I put the young people at the conference in the same category as the protesters outside. And I don't like it when people make assumptions about me. And it's not any better when I make assumptions about other people, which I did. So my bad. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, so there you have it. It's like they're talking about Nazis, they're being hypocrites, and every single time that they say something like this, as I said before, in the past year, they had to apologize or do a legal note so they don't get sued. And if I was ABC News, if I was the intelligent people, and I see these people constantly spewing this insanity and these comments here, I would fire them. I would fire all of them. I would drop the entire show, because at some point, there's going to be a point where they are going to get us sued, make us lose a lot of money, and maybe close down the platform because they said something completely unhinged. These people just do not deserve to have a platform when they're saying something like this. Like, I'm not gonna lie, if I seen this happen constantly, over and over and over again, to where there's so many of these things where I have to make a legal note or apologize, etc., because I said something completely unhinged, I would be fired. Literally fired. Because you can't be doing this. Like, it's insanity. And it's lucky for me, I own my own show, so I can say what I want without any other issues and no type of things that's going on. But with these people, they don't have this. In any other scenario, these people would be fired because they'd be too much of a liability, too dangerous to even be allowed on there, because they're threatening my company and maybe be being sued for millions to millions to hundreds of millions of dollars. It's just insane. Well, guys, that's it for the video. Please, guys, share. As always, take care, my friends. If you like what you see, you know what to do.
Burn down the city, scream at the top of your lungs till you're dizzy. You can cancel everything and everybody in it, but it's not your